Welcome, everybody.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So glad to see you all. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our Better Together event. So excited to get an opportunity to network and learn from each other. So today we are going to look at basically these different items. You can see there we've got cookies and cream. What's not better than cookies and cream, right? And so if you have not received your little gift from us, that's probably because you registered in the last couple of days, which thank you for doing that, and so glad you are here. But don't worry, it is in the mail and you will get that very, very soon. So if you already received it, hopefully you've enjoyed it. It looks really good to me, so I'm excited to try it myself. So today we're going to break down our Better Together event in these areas. We're going to do a welcome and introduction, and then we're going to get right into it. We're going to address those 3 top administrator concerns that have been identified. And then we'll share with you some tips to tackle those 3 concerns, and then we will wrap up the webinar with how we can help support the work that you do this school year and beyond. And please stay for the end of the event because there will be an opportunity to enter a lunch and learn giveaway. So stay tuned for that as well. And since this event is called Better Together, just wanted to highlight that we are better together. And this is your Better Together team, and it starts with you. Your challenges, your successes, your experiences, your ideas, sharing them and networking them as we meet together in this group. My name is Dawn McHotter, and I will be joined today by my colleague, Ben Talsma. And so, hey, Ben, how you doing out there?
I am doing marvelously, Dawn, and I am Ben Talsma. Pleased to be joining you today. Excited to be learning and working together. Although I do notice that on Zoom, it says my name is Violet. That's actually my daughter's name. If you had a similar situation, if you could go ahead and change your name to something that like represents you, that will be your virtual name tag. I'm going to change it to Ben from Van Andel. And that will help us get to know everybody just a little bit. So if you can go ahead and change your name, then we will get ready to get rolling to explore some really rich and important ideas together today.
Excellent. Okay, great. Yeah, Ben and I are just very excited to share with you, but also to learn from you as we learn together. And all of the resources, the ideas, the strategies, we put together in this handout HyperDoc, which you can see the link there on your screen, but I believe that is going to be going into the chat. Yep, it's there as we speak. So please take a look at that. We're actually going to also be using that as a place where you can record any notes or some ideas from our breakout room session here that we're going to start in just a minute. So take a look at that as you see fit. I just wanted to start off with something that I love Ted Lasso. And so if you haven't seen the show, maybe you'll find a quote or two that you might relate with. But if you have seen the show, maybe there's things you have heard from Ted Lasso before. He is a coach an American football coach that's brought over to Europe to coach a football or soccer team. And so it's really great. And he's got some great one-liners or multiple liners that just make you smile. And so we'd like to find out from you what quote here best describes your school district. Which quote best describes your school district? So we're going to put a poll up here in a second, but in the green kind of gives that character, right? Is your school district more like a locker room? I do love a locker room. It smells like potential. Or is it taking a challenge is a lot like riding a horse, isn't it? If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. You know what the happiest animal on earth is? It's a goldfish. You know why? It's got a 10-second memory. I feel like we fell off the lucky tree and hit every branch on the way down, ended up in a pool of cash and Sour Patch Kids. If you care about someone and you've got a little love in your heart, there ain't nothing you can't get through together. And finally, our goal is to go out like Willie Nelson on a high. So I'm going to open up a poll here. And let's see here. Sorry about that. Gonna relaunch it. I think. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to pivot here because it doesn't look like I can share that. So if we could go ahead in the chat box, just write down what your the green words would what relates to you. So those green words. So in the chat box, write down, do you relate more to locker room, riding a horse, goldfish, lucky tree, little love in your heart, or Willie Nelson? What quote best describes your school or school district? Even if you've never seen Ted Lasso, find one there. And if you don't have one, add one. Add something that would describe your school or your district. And we'll take a look at the chat here. Oh, we got little love in your heart. Little love in your heart. Love it.
A lot of love and a lot of horses.
A lot of horses, yes. Oh, thank you. Riding a horse. Excellent. A lot of love and a lot of horses. Fantastic. The locker room. Yeah, definitely. Smell of potential. Fantastic. Okay, so we'll just keep that going, but Ted Lasso might appear again throughout this presentation. Just keep your eyes peeled there. So I just thought this picture really aptly represents what your job is. It's a balancing act. You are constantly balancing different issues and concerns. And you think of maybe one, that one chair is all of the COVID and pandemic related concerns, safety, maybe parent concerns, mandates, all of those issues you've had to deal with within the last almost 2 years now. And the other chair is just your teaching, your learning, high quality instruction, providing a school community that fosters social and emotional well-being. And so it's incredibly challenging. And so when we reached out to our administrators before this event, we wanted to find out what were those top concerns for this school year. And as you can see, those were the lists that we were given there. And we had 3 that you can see that are highlighted that rose to the top. Teacher morale, which can go along with the teacher and sub shortage, mental health for staff and students, and learning loss and intervention strategies. So those are the 3 issues that we are going to discuss today in our breakout rooms, and also the tips and the strategies we're going to share. As we mentioned, we are better together. So now is the time where we're going to share our ideas, our successes, our challenges, maybe resources or tips to tackle those 3 pressing ideas. So in just a moment, we're going to break out into 2 breakout rooms. And in those breakout rooms, you're either going to be led by Ben Talsma, formerly known as Violet, and myself. And we're going to address those 3 questions. How are you addressing learning loss, intervention strategies? How are you addressing mental health for your staff and students? And how are you addressing teacher morale? So I think Heather, our behind the scenes guru, is going to start that up, and we'll see you back here in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. You will come in on mute. We go ahead and unmute. We'll just be having some conversations today. It's a Better Together event. And so we're going to be all about sharing best practice, talking about how things have been going with us, what's been working, what have been some struggles, how we might address those struggles. We'll let everybody from room 2 get joined here, and then we'll start the conversation. So there were 3 questions up there, those 3 top concerns that had kind of filtered to the top as we discussed with administrators. The first one was, how are we addressing learning loss and intervention strategies? So we're just gonna, we got a fairly small group here, so it should work well for you to just sort of interject as you see fit. So I'm curious what you have done so far to address learning loss in your district or in your school. Who would like to start?
Okay.
My name is Donna.
Excellent. Thank you. Donna, what have you done to address learning loss?
Okay, so I am from Dearborn, Michigan, and we have been doing the PLC work where we have been identifying essentials. Last year, to start the year, when we were thinking our loss was going to be a couple months, we did a flash forward, flashback, where we looked at the content in the spring of 20 that wasn't completed, and the teachers front loaded those essential skills in both math and in reading so that they had the background they needed for the new content last year. Last year, we spent the majority of the time on remote. We were remote until March. And then at that point, we came back hybrid. So we came back with half a class at a time, alternating days. This year, we have really done the work where we're relooking at those essentials, and we've been comparing them to our county. Our county has now identified essentials, and we are making sure that we're focused very specifically on a set number of the standards that we're guaranteeing our students will leave with at the end of the year. Now, that requires a lot of pre-testing at the beginning to see which pieces that they were missing because of the pandemic. So we're really working on doing that at this point.
You're really trying to zero in on a couple of things to do in great depth, and then using
Yes.
data to kind of drive your decisions about what those essentials would be.
Right.
Marvelous. Marvelous. Thank you very much for sharing. Does anybody else want to share maybe something similar or a different approach that they've taken to addressing some of those gaps that might have opened up?
I can share real quick. We're in Cedar Springs, so just north of Grand Rapids. We had designed a full onslaught of intervention strategies and hired individuals as we could to fill those positions, but we're running into some real hiccups. And I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer, but we are having some real significant issues with staffing, both to fill those interventionist positions, but also to fill substitute positions. And so we're finding that we're having to pull our interventionists out of those roles on a pretty significant frequency, which is disrupting.
Sorry about that. The Zoom gods decided that I should be in room 1 for a moment, but I came back. So you were talking about some challenges, some staffing issues that you were having. How many people are experiencing some severe staffing issues right now? Essentially, that's ubiquitous, right? Everybody's running into that issue. So have you found anything that's been successful to help get those staff who are going to support any interventions that you do? Anybody got any helpful tips or tricks for staffing?
So we don't have any helpful tips or tricks or staffing, but we have reached the point where we were almost fully staffed. And so to just kind of help with some learning loss, we have what we're calling an alternative instructor that's in addition to the teacher at each grade level. And so that person is being assigned to students who we're identifying as kind of being further behind than where they should be. And so they are providing intervention supports for those students to kind of help close some of those gaps or to kind of, I guess, recoup some of that learning loss that's occurred. In addition to that, we are doing or just getting ready to do some after school. We're taking some funds and going to do some after school tutoring with kids who are behind, and we see that learning loss. And we're also kind of doing like a spiral approach so that teachers are trying to cover grade level material, but also realizing that they missed a lot from the previous grade level. And so they're kind of spiraling back and trying to touch on that, as well as touch on some of the things that they should be, where they should be according to their grade level. So.
Excellent. So how do you determine that? Is that included in their curriculum, or do you have meetings specifically to decide kind of how they're going to pull that material back in? Or is
that's what teacher teams kind of have those, and somebody mentioned PLC. So part of that work is what's being done in the teacher teams. And so, they are familiar with the previous grade level curriculum or get it as familiar as they can. But it's kind of I guess a grade level team approach to taking that work on.
And then incorporating like some after school, some like extended school day approaches
That's right.
to try and make up some of those gaps as well. How many people are taking that approach with the after school programs being a component of this learning loss issue? Couple. Okay, interesting. Outstanding. So we've got a couple other issues. One of them is really related to staffing pretty directly as well. Another one of those issues that we want to discuss is mental health for staff, and students. So I'm curious if you've been doing anything specifically to address mental health issues, both from a staff perspective and a student perspective.
So can I talk about this?
Certainly.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a 712 principal in rural Iowa. Our state department realized real quickly last fall, and we were face-to-face most of the year last year, but they realized real quickly that the mental health of our students was, the traumatic effect of the pandemic was really pulling them down academically. So we applied for a grant. There were 6 schools in the state that were chosen, and we got a $250,000 grant to start a therapeutic program, which only serves 20 kids district-wide, but those students receive, and they don't have to be special ed kids, they special ed, general ed. They are served by a classroom teacher. They have an FBA and a BIP written. Special ed or general ed, doesn't matter. They're served by a social worker who works with their family and a behavior interventionist. So as part of that grant that we received, which is amazing, we're also rolling that back into our staff, and all of our PD is PK-12 systemic, not just that program, and deals not only with the mental health of our students, but also the self-care of our staff. So we've been really lucky to receive some funds to do that.
Outstanding. There are funds, out there. Those grants and additional funding is out there. That sounds like a great opportunity for you and for your school. Any principles that you're gleaning from that you think might be applicable to people who are maybe not in the same situation? What sort of things have you learned through that process?
Well, we're really leaning on the work of ACEs, and in conjunction with that, also the HOPE framework. And we're finding that our kids carry a lot of trauma that we're not aware of. So taking a step back and talking about in our MTSS process, how we can better serve our kids around that mental health piece as we try to continue to work them through the process of the pandemic. So those 2 frameworks have been instrumental to us. Some of it has also emerged, like we're finding that we have some significant family issues in the community around poverty and job loss and adjustment to the world around them. So it's really about opening our doors and saying to our community, how can we serve you and how can we serve our kids? And, that's time consuming without a doubt, but we think we can get the best bang for our buck that way.
Much for sharing. Anybody else have any techniques, tips, tricks, programs that you've used to address some of those mental health concerns?
Right, I can jump in. My role is president of the Board of Education, but well aware of what's going on within the district. And one of the things that has changed, I think, is the staff has had a wellness program for the staff. And so in addition to, trying to encourage personal well-being, on days where we've had, for example, an extended professional development time, we've embedded opportunities for the staff to maybe go out for a walk on the track or play volleyball together or whatever. Because of the opportunities that they put together, the district wellness team won the governor's award at the low level for a wellness activity, and then were celebrated with a gala via Ignite Omaha. And, so that was really exciting. And I think when the staff is feeling, well, then that goes over to the students. They're not quite as stressed out and so forth. We have an upcoming combo PTO, Educational Foundation, Board of Education opportunity coming up in 2 weeks where we're bringing out coffee trucks. And before school starts, they're going to have an opportunity to get a coffee on us. And then the buildings, the 3 buildings in our district will be carded with thank yous from kids.
Outstanding. Yeah, sometimes it's, you know, those simple things that just go out of your way to show that you're paying attention to the mental health of your staff, of your students, you know, helping them feel appreciated, feel seen, feel recognized. That goes so far. So those are outstanding tips. Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to share or any questions to ask about student mental health? Anything you're curious about, or about staff mental health as well?
I'm Karina, and we're in Gardner Edgerton School District, which is in the Kansas City area. I'm in Johnson County, and we are a Title I school, but we kind of are very diverse because I've got some high families, and then we also have some very low income housing. And so we've noticed a lot of just everybody struggling and figuring out that it's not just the families that we used to expect that needed the help. And so we have kind of changed our building goals this year. First off, for PD, and that we're taking away, I'm trying to put PD at that's just the necessity that we have to do, and then giving them time to just stop and think and do what they need to. But we've set building goals of reaching out and making personal phone calls 4 times a year to every student from the classroom teacher, and then having the specials teachers and the specialists, and those also make those just positive, quick phone calls, and giving them scripts to use. So that way, I just have a couple minutes, but I wanted to let you know blank. We had already had a food pantry. So today is a conference day. And so outside in our hallway, we have bags already packed up, and it just says, if you need a bag of groceries, take it as you leave. Last year, and so this is just a tip for you, but don't take it from mine. We had one of my teachers that went to the Party City, Party Store or whatever. They don't, after Halloween, it is more work for them to box it and ship it out back to places, and doing the sales takes up all of their stuff. So they gave us, we have 75 brand new children's costumes out there, also lined up, that we could buy at such a cheap cost. So we have out sign, they're sorted by that, and just, if you need a costume, please take it. So just some of those things that it's not that we have to reach out and call and say, hey, are you really struggling? But just giving them those opportunities to know, and then just so we can remind them, because 2 years ago we were using lots of things for our food pantry and that, but we had a lot this last year that didn't want to bring it up or didn't want to say anything. And so we think that when it's just laid out there, we're getting more people who are shopping, whether they really need to or not, it doesn't matter. So just trying to do those little things.
Right. And leveraging some of the assets, the partners who are out there in your community. Right.
Yeah.
People want to help, and you'll find a lot of people who are interested in supporting you and supporting your students. So it's outstanding to just be able to leverage those partnerships, those connections. You know, that's a great thing for all of us to ask is, are there any other partnerships that would help us strengthen the way that we support staff and student mental health? So that's a great idea. Anybody else want to talk about something they've done for staff student mental health? So go ahead, Carol.
Carol from Cedar Springs, north of Grand Rapids. What I think is important is that you're checking in all the time, and sometimes make it anonymous, because a lot of staff aren't going to come to you for support. So I do send out surveys, and I'll always put at the bottom, is there anything you want me to know? And it's surprising just giving them that outlet to type that something bad has happened at home, where they're going through some personal experiences, that they're not going to come and tell me, but just giving them that outlet to share. And I've had a lot of personal things shared that I can go check in on them and give them that support. So just, you know, they're not going to come and ask for it, just to make sure to find ways for them to tell you in anonymous ways and not so anonymous ways sometimes too, to keep that communication open.
Yeah, I love that theme of simplicity that's sort of coming out of some of our conversations. Everybody is so busy, right? Everybody's so overtaxed these days. So when we're doing these things, it helps so much if we can just do the simple things that have a profound impact. So really sharing some great ideas. I hope that you're maybe either stealing some of these ideas because you really like them, or that they're sparking some creativity, that some ideas that you might want to pursue, just to do, again, just the little things. You've got a lot on your plate, just doing the little things that'll have a powerful impact. So how about any other tips, tricks, techniques that you can use for improving staff morale? It was that last theme there was staff morale, really related to mental health, of course. Any other staff morale tips or practices? All right, how about any other issues that you are encountering this year specifically? Like what's different this year compared to years previous? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? We can get support from the colleagues that you have around you right now.
I think we've spent the last 2 years trying to take care of everybody. And I am finally starting to feel the toll physically of not taking care of myself while I've been taking care of everybody else. And it's just those simple reminders from the people in your life, like my poor husband, I would hate to have me to come home to every day, but it's just the reminders that, what, we have people who are there to support us. And we just need to remember that we're although we may be singletons in our buildings, administration wise, but there are people out there who are willing to at least let us bitch about it.
I echo that. And the thing that's scary for me is that my wife tells me that I'm just not even the same person that I used to be. And I don't even notice. And that's what's really scary. Like, I think, is it really me or is it you? Because I don't feel the stress. Like I don't feel it, and it's scary.
It has really been unprecedented for everyone, right? We've all gone through, staff, students, administrators have gone through something they've never gone through before. And so it's affecting us in ways that we might not really understand. And so I love this idea of paying attention to the mental health and the morale of your staff and your students, but also realizing that a lot of that starts with you as well. So are there any approaches that you found successful? Obviously, some of this is really individual, but are there any principles that you think could help all of us make sure that we're taking time for ourselves to recharge our own batteries as well? Anything that's been successful that you'd like to share?
I just try to find those 1 or 2 safe people who I can listen, they can listen to me or vice versa. And I don't necessarily need them to fix it, just kind of need to get in a confidential place, stuff to just get it off. And think, kind of going off of what they said about just being different themselves this year. I think I have heard more staff members and more administrators and just admin groups that I've been in say, I'm not sure I want to be in education anymore. And that scares me because I've even had that thought at a couple times. I'm not going to say it's that every day, but there have been a couple days like, oh my goodness, is this worth it? And is the stress that it is putting on my body or myself that I'm taking and carrying all the time, is it worth it? And so I'm hearing that from a lot of people. So I worry about education as we move forward. And I think some of that, so I'd love to know if this is the same for you. But I think some of that also comes from the way the students are coming back to school. I've also heard numerous things of students are so much more disrespectful or down or just really don't care. And I finally myself, I had to tell the staff that I think we as a nation are so divided of you're either this way or this way, and they hear it from their families, and people feel like whether it's social media or in person or whatever, that they can verbally state their opinion for everything all the time. And so that's carrying over to us, whereas, I'm older and I don't remember everything that my parents disagreed with because I didn't hear the news all of the time, you know, or even my own kids are in high school. We tried to talk about things, but if it really was something intense, my husband and I had our own conversations. We didn't gripe about it in front of them. And I think now it's so just open out there that the kids are kind of like, well, I can come here. If masks are stupid, then I can just keep it down here. And when my teacher tells me to pull it up, I can roll my eyes and be like, you know, so I don't know. I think we have a hard challenge in the future to keep good educators.
You always have a difficult challenge in that all of those issues tend to filter up to administration, right? This is why I like being a teacher and didn't want to go into administration. But now more than ever, right? Those issues are percolating to the surface and you get caught in the middle of those. And so that's just another layer of stress that's imposed on you on top of all the other kind of logistic nightmares that you have to manage during the pandemic too. I mean, you mentioned having a person or people who you can connect with. I think that's a super powerful strategy, just making sure you identify those safe people. And I also, you know, hope that you see the people who are here nodding their heads along with you. And I don't know if it helps at all, but it just reminds you that you're not alone, and that there are a lot of heroes throughout the pandemic, but some of them are those people who are nodding their heads along with you, the administrators who are making this happen and who are sticking it out in a really difficult situation. So I hope that you see that affirmation and that it has even a little bit of value to affirming that you are doing great and important work. Anybody else?
Yeah, so we've committed to this thing of having a work-life balance. So as an administrative team, we've committed to not checking emails after a certain time of day and not sending emails after a certain time of day. We also then have identified, I guess, some goals that we kind of want to work on throughout the year that aren't work related, and we have a check-in buddy as a part of our administrative team. And so every so often, you know, I'll get a note from my check-in buddy, checking on, seeing how I'm doing with my tap dancing commitment, so to, if you will, and just doing things to just remind us to have that work-life balance. So that's been something that we've implemented here where I am.
I love that kind of time that's not expected to be involved with email, right? This balance time. And is it tap dancing? Are you working on that as your hobby right now?
Yeah, I didn't really want to share that, but yeah, it's kind of slipped out.
All right. I love picking up a new skill, right? Something outside that's detached from school, right? That can be really valuable. I love that.
Right.
Scott?
I frame that a little bit differently. I frame it as life-work balance, because if you put work first, you're not in balance. So just in my own brain, I try to work hard to put life first.
Yeah, we talk a lot about work-life balance, but sometimes just subtly changing the way we use our language can have a powerful impact, right?
It's really about life-work balance.
Yeah, but prioritize, right? Prioritize. Make sure that you put the things that are most important first. I love that point. That's great. Any other comments, questions, insights there?
I think it's also important. We tell our kids all the time when I talk to a student that's struggling that you have to have somebody that you can go to that understands you. And I can come home and share with my husband and he does not get it. But if I can share with another principal, they get it. So I call him my principal Peeps. And if something great happens, I share. And if something horrible happens, I share. But I know they get it. So I think it's really important to talk to somebody that gets it, because if they don't get it, they don't get it. And I don't think that's as helpful. And I know a lot of states have principal committees and networks, and they're different in different states, but you've got to talk to somebody that's doing what you're doing so that they can help you get through it, because they get it. And we're all feeling it. But if you're not feeling it with somebody else that gets it, it sometimes feels pretty lonely. So I think that's the biggest thing. Talk to somebody that's doing what you're doing, teaching, counseling, superintendenting, whatever it is you're doing, but connect with somebody else that gets it.
Excellent. How many of you have principal Peeps, so to speak? Have a group of people who get it, right? Who have experience. That is a really powerful thing. So we're closing breakout rooms here pretty soon, but I'm getting some really powerful principles out of this. A couple of them rising to the top. Focus on life-work balance for you and the rest of your school, and do it in support of each other, right? Leaning on people who get it. Who will be there for you, can support you through that process. So we've got about 25 seconds, then we'll be joining back together in the other room. And I guess before we go, I just want to reiterate that you are recognized. There are a lot of people, even if they don't say it, who recognize the difficult job that you're doing. And I'm one of them. I love hearing all the outstanding ideas that you're putting into practice in your schools to help make them healthier, stronger places. So thank you very much.
Everyone, almost everyone. Okay, good group. Thank you so much for joining our breakout room. And as I mentioned before, we are better together and learning from each other. So thank you for being here. And I guess I'd just like to start things off with our first question there, in talking about learning loss and intervention strategies. And I'm curious to find out, what are the successes you found in addressing this this school year? And does anyone want to start us off?
I'm sorry, I got in a little bit late. Could you repeat which topic we're starting with?
Sure. Thanks, Jamie, and thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're going to start with learning loss and intervention strategies. So some ways that you've addressed it, or successes that you've had. Do you have something you'd like to share, Jamie?
Sure. I'm at an elementary school, a K-5 school, and this year we have implemented a building-wide intervention time. So this first year, we couldn't do the entire building at the same time. We're basically in 3 different hallways, so we've broken it up throughout the day. So everybody in the hallway has the same intervention time, and we pull our ESL teachers, our intervention teachers, our special education teachers, and then all of their paras. So we have about 17 adults for 6 classrooms, and we're able to break the kids into small groups and work on what they need, their individual needs.
That's great. That's fantastic. How has that gone this year so far?
It's really gone pretty well. Our kindergarten teachers struggled with knowing what the kids needed. They need everything.
Right.
A lot of our kiddos didn't go to preschool. And so, they start at many different levels. I'm sure you all know. So some of them, what they need is to learn their name. And some of them need, they have a lot of different needs. So our kindergarten, they started with just some structured play time so that kids can start learning how to interact.
Great.
The other hallways, the 2nd and 3rd grade hallway and the 4th and 5th grade hallway, they've broken it up to where they do math every day for a week. And then the next week is reading every day.
Okay.
We would love to have an hour so that we could do 30 minutes of each, but just couldn't fit that into our school day this year. So we're doing our best to alternate.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Jamie. Anyone else to add to that? Or I know, Jamie, you'd mentioned that's your K-5 building and in Kansas, right? Is that okay? Yeah. Well, welcome to our Better Together.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or ideas for learning loss or intervention strategies? Or are you? Oh, go ahead, Susan.
Okay. So this year, because of dismissing school and losing some of that instruction time, we have tiered our ELA instruction. And so we have grouped with leveled reading. That way we can give more support to those kids that are really struggling at the bottom, needs more intensive intervention. Putting a lot of our resources like EL teacher, our reading specialist, and going in and really hopefully getting the biggest bang for our buck there. And then the bigger groups or the larger size groups then are those kids that are a little more secure in their skills and are able to do more independent work. And we're trying to just make sure that during that time we are getting all the foundational skills covered and finding any holes that we might need to plug.
Great. And is your building K-5, K-8?
K through 4.
Oh, K-4. Okay. K through 4. Excellent. Is it Kiana?
Kiana.
Oh, Kiana, sorry.
That's all right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiana Walker. I'm an assistant principal at a K-4 elementary in Ohio. Similar to what Susan was saying, we're definitely making sure we really take into account our MTSS process and our tiers. One thing about it is with our tier 2, we've actually divided that up into tier A and 2A and 2B, excuse me. And so we know that tier 2 starts in the classroom. So the tier 2A students remain in the classroom and get that intervention from the teacher. However, those identified as tier 2B, so they're not quite yet tier 3. We don't have all the data for that, but we know that they need more intense intervention. Those students are pulled out by a specialist and receive that. So again, we're recognizing that we don't have the data to make them tier 3 students yet, but that they need that intense intervention now. And that, you know, they need the small group of 1 to 3, not simply the small group of, you know, between 1 and 6, and that they need that more consistent and frequently. And so we have those students who are pulled out. And so we're also looking at, we use MAP this year. And so not only are we looking at our red kiddos, we're also using our orange. So we're at about, you know, 39th percentile down that we're really looking at, and how are we helping those students to get back to where they should be. Not this year, but, you know, in the coming years as well.
That's great. And so when you said MAP, that's the NWEA assessment, right? Okay. Just want to confirm that. Great. Thank you. Now, just curious on with the interventions, and you talked about, you know, the tiering of that and identifying it. Is it a, you know, a balance? It's always a balancing act between, you know, getting your students out and pulling them out and making sure they're still able to, you know, maintain that, you know, grade level curriculum and instruction as well. Do you find that challenging?
Oh, absolutely. But I think our teachers do a fantastic job of really just talking with each other to really determine, number one, what's the best time to pull them out so they are not missing a large chunk of that instruction, especially that with that direct instruction. So we try to make sure our kids are in there during that time and pull them out at times where there's more of that independent work. And then also they work together to see how they can supplement the work that the teachers are giving. So even if it is not the same worksheet, making sure they scaffold it down, but they're still getting that skill that the kids are working on at the grade level, because we know that they're going to have to take a test, which is going to assess them at the grade level. So we want them to at least know that skill and try their best at it. So I would say a lot of teamwork, a lot of, you know, just communication. And making sure our students are in during that direct instruction time, and that they're pulled out more so during their independent work time.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any other examples of things that you're doing in your school or district? I know we've heard from a few elementary. Is there any secondary examples to share? Do that, because I'm sure that will look a little bit different too in the secondary classroom. Okay, yeah, that is you know, incredibly difficult, the challenge, the learning loss, and you know, how do you do that, and making sure your students don't get further behind if they're pulled out for remediation or, you know, intervention as well. So finding that delicate balance there. Well, let's go on to the next question, and actually the two questions that next two questions really go together a little bit, but and it's about the mental health and for your staff and your students. And so I'm curious on the things that you've done to address that in your schools. So you want to start us off with things, and maybe it's, you know, a question you have or a challenge you're finding that you'd like some advice on.
I'll speak again for my elementary building.
Okay.
We adopted the second step curriculum in 2019, whatever year we got shut down. We had adopted that so that because we were just supplementing, like our teachers were just coming up with their own activities and such. So we knew we needed a curriculum. And then not only did we do that, but the following year, we start the day with SEL. There is a protected 30-minute time period that teachers use first thing in the morning to teach the SEL lesson.
Mhm.
We've also implemented what we call it a soft start. There's lots of names for it, but our students can come in the building as early as 7:30 in the morning. And then we don't start serving breakfast until 8. So from 7:30 until 8, we have supervised areas around the building where they can choose if they want to do Legos, if they want to walk and talk, play basketball, watch a movie, color. It's just a way to ease them into their day. Some of them come from pretty rough homes, and we just wanted to help them kind of get the mindset of, I'm at school, this is a safe place, let them get ready to learn. And we've found that that's helped with our discipline tremendously.
Absolutely. Remind me, how long have you been doing that?
Well, this is our first year of being able to do it because of COVID. We weren't allowed to mix kids. And so we started it 2 years ago, but last year we had to put it on hold. So we're back to it again this year.
Okay, great. Great example. Thank you for sharing. Love that. Any other examples about, oh, look, we have a question here. How does a soft start time work with teacher duty times, contract time that states?
I should say teachers, sorry, not students, but that teachers should have X amount of time without students.
Right, absolutely. And so we were fortunate enough in our district that we have enough paras. We require our paraprofessionals to be here at 7:30, and then they run all of those activities. So teachers are uninterrupted in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, we actually have a para shortage right now. So
yeah, it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of head nods. So shortage is a big concern right now in all positions, I imagine. Paraprofessionals, support staff, teachers. Absolutely.
Especially substitutes.
Oh, yeah. Have you all experienced that with subs? Sure. Yeah, that's difficult. What are some ways that you're trying to abate that? Like, have we had to think a little bit differently or create creatively, or is it?
It's always a challenge, that's for sure. I try to mix it up. Like today, when I had some teachers absent, I filled in with some of my paraprofessionals. Next week, when we have a curriculum review day, I am in need of 5 subs in my elementary school for the day, so that one teacher from each grade can go over to the curriculum office and hear the vendors present on math. Well, so far I have 2 subs lined up. I'm just not having any luck getting any more. So we've decided we're going to pull our reading specialist, our reading interventionist, pull some of those people instead of the EAs. So we just try to share the wealth, I guess, and not always take the same people, because that really wreaks havoc on supervision schedules when you take your paraprofessionals all the time too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jenny just added something to the chat. Susan, thank you for that. It is, you're right, it's real. Jenny says we adopted Frenzy SEL curriculum. We have an intervention teacher teaching these lessons once a week in our elementary classes. She's been on maternity leave, so I'm not sure how students are responding, but it went well last year. So she's interested in hearing everyone's ideas here today too. So, well, welcome, Jenny. Thank you for listening in. Glad you're with us, and even while you're on leave too. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for taking the time. And I've never heard of Friendly, so I'm not familiar with that curriculum. I have heard of the second step curriculum, but not the Friendly. So it's great. So we kind of, talking about a couple of things about the addressing the mental health in our students, for our staff, but also we've got this issue with the teacher sub shortage, which is real and it's huge and it's impacting everything, because if you can't get subs, you can't help if your teachers are sick, and then scheduling any professional development is incredibly difficult because you can't do that. You don't have people to cover. So Susan mentioned some ways that they've been creative about that, but you're right, you can't always go to the same people because they have their jobs to do too. And so what do you do? Have there been any other solutions or ideas out there people are doing?
Well, I'm at a small school, central Missouri. We've got about 280 kids pre-K through 12. And we started a couple of years ago actually looking at mental health and becoming doing the trauma aware, trauma informed, and actually we've got a counselor, an LPC that comes in and meets with students. We partnered with Burl Mental Health, and they actually came out to the beginning of this year. We started our professional development before school started and focused on mental health of the teachers and things that they can do. And then our admin team follows up, just regular check-ins to see if everybody's doing okay, or how are things going. And then that has also trickled down to the students. We do triage in the morning as the kids are coming into the building. Our admin team is placed, as well as paras, similar to what was said earlier. Our paras start their day at 7:30 when the kids start getting here. So that isn't put on the teachers. But then the teachers are in the classroom. We have a new position this year. We have a regulation room. We hired a regulation teacher that, as we start seeing kids that maybe are kind of off as they come in the morning, they go to the regulation room, and kind of that is close to our therapy room. And they have a bunch of different resources there with our SPED services. It's kind of all in the same location in the building, but they're rooms that are connected by doors. So there's a SPED therapy room that leads into another therapy room, and then the regulation room leads into the therapy room. So they can go in there and do some different activities, or just kind of get calmed down. They meet with the regulation teacher. And then the first job of her day, she goes around and checks in on the kids that we've identified that kind of need that extra support just to get their day started, to be sure that everything's okay. And if not, then we take action, remove them and try and work with them and get them back to where they can be successful in the classroom. But as far as the teachers, we also try to do things just periodically to surprise them and thank them for being here. We just pop in. Our superintendent sent out like you would have thought it was Christmas, because she sent a text out to the staff that, hey, tomorrow's Monday, and I forgot wear jeans. It was a free jeans day, and everybody was just really excited, and everybody was, you would have thought she gave them a huge bonus, but I mean, it just meant a lot to them, and they came in comfortable and all smiles, and we're just trying to keep positivity as much as we can. And it is a struggle, because we are asking, you feel like at times you're asking the impossible from them, but somehow they manage to get the job done, and we thank them and appreciate them as much. We've even had parents who, when we were on lockdown, it fell on our admin team. We were delivering meals to houses and checking in regularly with kids who hadn't been logging in virtually or hadn't been working. And I was going to houses and knocking on doors and being sure everything was okay. And, hey, do you have everything you need? Is there anything we can help with? Because we have a lot of community resources. Our county-wide, we also partner with the Central Missouri Community Action Team, and they have a lot of resources as far as they have a 3-tier support, and they partner with Burl as well. So if a kid needs counseling, if the parents need help with assistance with parenting classes, if they need help with bills, there's just a lot of different resources. But for the teachers, like I said, we just keep trying to keep things positive for them. Popping in, one day we popped popcorn and just went around to the teachers and, hey, we're just popping in to thank you for doing a great job. We're glad you're here. Thank you that you're here. And I know it's not more money. I know it's not, we're kind of limited with our resources. And as far as the sub shortage, I have 5 subs on a regular basis that I am able to use in the high school and junior high. This shortage is real. And last night at our board meeting, they actually just increased the amount of sub pay to hopefully draw some additional, because we had heard some of that from the subs that they could make more at neighboring school districts because they were paying more. So they would choose to go there versus coming to ours. So we actually upped ours a little bit more than neighboring districts just to try and attract some more subs here. But yeah, and I even have one position we didn't get filled this year. We were looking for an English teacher and couldn't fill that position. So we've had to cover in-house with some of our English classes. So
Did you, I'm assuming that was at the secondary level and
junior high.
yeah, and so you absorbed that with other
Yeah.
teachers? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And you're doing some incredible things with your teachers. And like you said, like just popcorn or sending a text about wearing jeans on Monday. I mean, all of those things that might seem small, they make a big difference. So
yeah, they really have. And you can tell. Not to say that they don't get tapped out and they're drained. And, you know, we've been fortunate this go round. I think we just had 8 boys out on quarantine because one of the boys tested positive that was at the lunch table with them or in class. They were in close contact, and some of the teachers were frustrated because the kids weren't logging in. They weren't zooming into class. They weren't doing that. And I said, well, you just have to assume that they're not feeling well. We can't automatically assume that they, treat it as if they are sick or they, aren't feeling well enough to log in, and then we'll deal with that when they get back. And try and work with them. We have an outstanding counselor that does all she can to pull kids in and get them back on track. Or we have meetings with the teachers, and the teachers will meet with kids individually to get them caught up. So that's one of the biggest struggles, I think, is they're frustrated with how to balance that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. Are you a superintendent then?
No, I'm a principal.
The principal. Okay. Okay. Of the
7 through 12. I'm 7 through 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that and sharing kind of the secondary perspective, because like that regulation room that you were talking about, that's incredibly creative. And I'm assuming you brought in, did you bring in like an additional, you said a hire, but was it a counselor? Could have a school counselor to manage there, or was it a special ed teacher?
We have a school counselor. We also hired an LPC, comes in once a week to meet with kids that we've kind of identified that need to meet, but we also partner with the Borough Mental Health. They come in 2 days a week and they provide counseling services as well.
Okay. All right.
For students. So yeah, we try to get as many resources as we can. And it's really helped with getting, like Borough, we have, we actually moved our nurse's office, and there's an office down in our commons area that the counselors use when they come in. So like on Mondays and Fridays, Borough comes in, and on Wednesdays, our LPC comes in, but they all use the same office space. So it's secluded and it's discreet, and the kids don't know, they get called to come to the office. They don't know why. And then, well, your counselor's here to meet with you today. And then they go down and meet with them in this separate room. And it's really been a positive influence, and we can tell a big change in some of the kids too.
That's great. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. Anything else on this topic? We talked about the mental health of our staff, students. We got this teacher support staff shortage. To go along with it, one of the other areas that I had mentioned before was the teacher morale, which goes along there as well. Just the differentiator that we use for the teacher morale is more of kind of when it comes to the work and the burnout, and just balancing all those different parts of the job, and how as administrators you can support your teachers in their workloads. And it's challenging because a lot of times there's not stuff taken off the plates because of everything that teacher has to do. And same for you. I mean, there's more that gets added to your plates every day and not taken away. So how can we work together to think about some ways to help improve that for
has
your
anybody
staff?
I'm wondering, has anybody partnered with like their health provider? Like if you have health insurance to the school, do they offer services or anything for your health provider that maybe would help teachers? You know what I mean? Are there any services that they would provide? Maybe. I don't know. I'm wondering, because that's one thing we have. I do get worried about, and I think we've lost some teachers. I know we lost a couple this last year because of COVID, that they were just frustrated and done and tapped out and didn't come back. And I don't know, we're always looking for ways to support them and help them. And I don't know if there's something health-wise for their mental health, or, activities that we could do to promote just their well-being overall. And I don't know if anybody's health insurance, if that's an option, or does anybody do that?
Maybe, and I don't know if this is quite answering your question, but I just automatically think about the EAP program, Employee Assistance Program. And so typically they provide different resources for the teachers. I know that with our district, staff members who have the insurance are able to get 3 sessions of counseling for free, or therapy for free.
Oh.
And then they help to refer them to someone else. Or if they're just struggling with something else, they provide some resources. So I would look to see what your EAP offers through HR.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Looks like our breakout rooms are closing, but if we want to continue this conversation, feel free to put that in the chat box as well. I think we will all be joining back here in just a few seconds. Thank you so much for the conversation. Really appreciate it.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah. Are we all back?
We got them all, Dawn.
All right. Excellent. Well, that was incredible. Thank you so much for taking that time to discuss these important issues with your group. So before we wrap that piece up, I'd like to take a moment just to synthesize a little bit of what you just did in your breakout room. So what is one takeaway that you got from your peers? What's one thing that you learned, or something that maybe you could try or do based on that conversation? So go ahead and write that in the chat box. We're curious to see what your takeaways were. Yeah, before school activities for students, check-ins, just talking. Encourage teachers to work together, to collaborate, to plan. Life-work balance, so important, yes. Very, very, very much important. So morale boosters, surprises, just those little things. Remember in our group, we talked about little things go a long way to make a difference for our teachers. Work-life balance, yeah, very important. Absolutely. Well, we can keep that going there. And I'm going to just transition it to sharing with you some tips and some strategies that can help you tackle those 3 big problems that you just discussed. So the first, when we looked at learning loss and intervention strategies, just some tips or some ideas as you are facing that challenge in your schools or districts. So first is just always making sure that you're focusing on that quality core instruction. And I know in my breakout room, and I'm sure in Ben's as well, there were some great examples of what you were doing in your schools, in your classrooms, to meet those needs of your students, whether it's tiering and getting those supports in place, those interventions in place, and having that balance, right? Because we know that we need to do some remediation or interventions, but we also need to make sure that those students are still able to get that grade level, high quality, engaging curriculum, so it doesn't put them further behind. And a great way to do that is to provide them those authentic learning experiences, such as project-based learning, which also accounts for equity, and it connects that content, so that content is constantly being revisited. So it's not that whole learn it, test it, forget it cycle. And also thinking a little bit more creatively on how you can provide these opportunities, these acceleration opportunities outside of school programming, like your after school programs or your summer programs as well. Another item to consider when planning for learning loss or interventions is making sure that the data that you're collecting is the data that you need, and it's data you can act on. So looking at all the data that you collect in your school, your district, are there any overlaps? If there are, then those assessments probably aren't needed, and really just focusing on that process, that assessment to inform instruction at the classroom level, as opposed to that product or creation of the assessment. And we know that those interim assessments, those diagnostic tools can be very helpful, and to really see where your students are, give a snapshot of where they're at in their certain content areas like math and reading. But really to get to the source and really understand that whole child, it's going to come at the classroom level. So making sure that you're elevating that formative assessment as well. And I've got a couple of resources here. They're in the HyperDoc. So if you see, I think the link for the HyperDoc should be going in the chat box here again. So if you want to pull that up, you're welcome to do that. But these are great strategies you can share with your teachers, maybe at your next staff meeting or PLC or grade level team meetings. Another thing to share with them is a survey on what are they seeing? What are those gaps that they're seeing in their classroom? And use this survey to collect that data and inform your future planning for your curriculum. And then helping you to really pinpoint and identify what is the most important things that my students need to learn, that my teachers need to teach. So focusing on those power standards. So we've created a resource. This is a standard scoring sheet. Again, it's in the HyperDoc, where we've taken all of the content standards, core content standards for grades K-8, and put it together in a spreadsheet where you can prioritize your standards. We've put in some criteria. You can change that, customize it to where you see fit, but it's really going to help you figure out what is most important for you to teach the remaining school year. The second issue that we talked about in our breakout rooms, I know in mine we spent quite a bit on these last two issues, is the mental health of staff and students. And we know that you have article, report after report just showing the, how difficult these past almost 2 years have been for our staff and our students. And I just pulled up this report here back in March of this year. Stated that the U.S. Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention indicated that our elementary students, there was a 24% increase in ER visits for a mental health crisis during April and October of the pandemic, or 2020, and then a 31% increase for our secondary students. And experts agree that the effects of the pandemic on our students will likely be seen for years to come. And the same, is true for our staff. They're stressed. We know that teaching is an incredibly stressful job. And then you put a pandemic in, you put virtual learning, concurrent learning, hybrid learning, mandates, masks, all those different things in there. And that stress just keeps getting adds up and up and up. And the RAND report at the beginning of the year stated that stress is the top reason teachers do leave. And we want to hold on to our teachers. Staff shortages is a huge issue. So taking care of our teachers is a major priority. So I wanted to share with you just a couple of just quick activities. I know there were some great ideas also in the breakout rooms as well. This is one we put together. This is a great, just to check in, see where your staff or your students are at. It's this mental health tracker. And this is in the resource guide. And you encourage your students or staff to fill it out based upon their moods, and they color it in. Now, there are a lot of apps you can use for this. There are a lot of different ways you can do this using mood meters and things. But this just is another tool, another way of really just checking in and where your teachers and where your students are at. And then you can maybe see some patterns. You see that, wow, January, or, think about March, that's a really, really, I had a lot of reds and yellows and oranges that time. What was going on, and really reflect on that. Another idea or a strategy I wanted to share with you, this is something that you could do in a staff meeting. Your teachers can do this with their students as well, is to use art to elicit mental health discussions. And you think art, like for me, that gives me a little anxiety, but this is a little different. It's more of identifying a symbol of where you are at on your journey. So it's a prompt you give to your students or staff, ask them to draw a symbol representing where they're at on their journey. Keep it open-ended, let them just interpret it if they want to interpret it, and give them 2 minutes to draw. And if it's appropriate, have them share out. And this is a really great way to reveal mental health in staff or students. You can see there's an example there from a teacher as well, that strategy. And then the last issue that we talked about, or in our breakout rooms and identified, is teacher morale, and really focusing on the workload, that making sure that our teachers don't get burned out. And if they do get to that point of burnout, what do we do to help them? So we put together some tools and resources that you can share with your staff. We have a whole list of strategies to help your teachers there. That's on the far right. Again, it's in the hyperdoc to help your teachers, decrease their stress, increase productivity, and avoid burnout. And then also a resource to help them check in on themselves, where they're at in their stress level. And using that qualifier or quantifier to identify, okay, now what are you going to do? So if my stress level is a 5, what do I need to do to make sure that I am attending to my needs? And then always making sure that your teachers know that they have permission to turn it off. Turn off the educator brain and take a break. And so just reminding them, those little cards there, which are linked in the hyperdoc, just a great reminder as well. And then finally, just a few tips. Now, I know that these are things that you are doing all the time with your teachers, and these little things pay huge dividends. They make a big difference in your teacher morale. And just finding as many opportunities you can to celebrate and affirm your teachers, whether it's shout outs at staff meetings, thank you post-it notes at random in mailboxes, or maybe it's just a quick email of recognition. Thinking about those meetings, those staff meetings that you do, and making them more collaborative, PD focused, and all those housekeeping items or logistics can be saved to an email or possibly a video you create. Be there. It's so powerful when an administrator joins their teachers in their professional learning because it shows that not only do you value the learning, but you also value their time. Finding opportunities to be a coach, turning your conversations into more reflective questionings whenever you're talking with your teachers. And, always asking for their input, surveying your staff. Maybe it's on learning loss, like the survey I shared earlier, or their school improvement, ideas for school improvement. How are their students? How are they? So just constantly kind of checking in with your staff. And then finally, I wanted to share this. This is from Jerry Brooks, principal out of Kentucky, and he gives all of his teachers a physical light switch at the beginning of the year, and just as a reminder so they can turn off their educator brain. So just a great way to show your teachers that, I care about you, I care about your well-being, and I want to make this the best school year ever. So I shared with you some tips, some ideas, some strategies and resources. So I am going to start a poll here. And so I'm hoping, nope, I'm Heather or Ben, you might have to do this for me. It says I can't, so if you could pull that up, there's a poll here. Which of these tips did you find helpful? And you can select more than one. And does everyone see that? I'm sorry, because I don't see it, so.
I certainly see it.
Okay, great. Then you'll have to be my eyes on this one.
We are getting responses in, Dawn. The responses are rolling in.
Yay, okay, great.
Give that another 10 seconds or so. Go ahead and pick as many as you think will be helpful. About 5 more seconds to lock in your answers. And then we'll find out what the group thinks all together. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. And I am going to share those results. And you'll see that teacher morale tools and resources has filtered way up there toward the top. With 73% of people finding that valuable. Mental health tracker was at 50, 6 tips to support your staff, also at 50. But each of those strategies was something that multiple people found valuable. So thank you very much. And I hope that you can put those into practice with your staff.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. And actually, I'm going to turn things over to you. So.
Indeed, we are approaching the end of our time together and the giveaway of that free lunch and learn. But we wanted to just share a couple of additional principles here. We're thinking about better together and how we are better when we can share ideas together, but also when the supports that we offer go nicely together, like cookies and cream. So let's take a look at some of the different flavors of supports that we have provided to schools and see how they support each other. So first of all, we love to provide professional development to build teacher capacity to help them understand content deeply, but we want to make sure we do that in a way that really honors the profession. So we want to give teachers a wonderful, outstanding PD experience. We want it to be hands-on. We want it to be engaging. We want it to be something that they look forward to. Now, that's flavor one. The second flavor is that we want to support that with instructional resources. If you want somebody to make a change, if you want somebody to implement a practice, you need to support them in taking that first step. One huge theme from our conversation in our breakout room was that people are stressed, people are overworked. So anything we can do to support our teachers and to make life easier for them, that's going to be a huge step in the right direction. So all of our PD comes with supporting instructional resources. Blue Apple projects that we offer, another great instructional resource that can support teachers in making their learning relevant and applicable and meaningful. And the last flavor of support that goes so well together is to provide ongoing support. We come alongside the schools that we work with. It is so helpful to have an actual real live physical person who's going to be there to answer the specific questions that you ask, or to support you with the specific needs that you're noticing. So we look at all three of these flavors of support as being better together. Now, when we look at professional development, again, we want to make this as supportive as possible for schools. So we make it flexible. We let schools choose their content, choose their schedule, and we're a nonprofit organization, so we can help them meet their budget as well, to make it something that's really going to be powerful for those teachers and supportive for those teachers. We start that process out with a quick, just 5-minute needs analysis survey, which gives a customized report. You can do this as an administrator, or you can involve your teachers in that process. But what it's really going to do is just let you focus in on the things that are most important. Again, we don't want to make extra work for administrators or for teachers at this point in time. We want to focus in on the things that are going to be most important. So that 5-minute needs analysis survey is a great tool for helping take out that extra stuff. We also want to make sure that the PD that we provide is evidence-based. That's written right into the language of the law. We need to make sure that we understand what your learning objectives are, what you're really trying to accomplish with your staff, and then we assess them. We ask them whether or not we were successful in that area. So you can see this is an example of something that we see from teachers at the end of a session. How well did we do this learning objective? How confident are you in personalizing projects? And you can see the growth from before to after there, because we want our PD to be impactful, to change the way teachers feel about their practice. So that's professional development. But the other flavor there is providing that instructional resource support. Again, to really support teachers, you want to offer all three flavors. So the Blue Apple projects that we offer are a really powerful way to do that. They've got really detailed project plans and the supplies delivered right to the teacher so that they don't have to run around and find things. They can focus on doing what they do best, which is teach. We set them up with real world connections. They don't have to make phone calls to bring these experts into their classroom. We arrange for the content connections to be right there in front of them. We give them opportunities to collaborate with other teachers around the country, and we embed professional development right there into the projects so that everything that they need is right at their fingertips. And then, of course, we want to make sure that everything we do is impactful. So you can see, again, this is another example of an evidence-based approach. We've got some targets there, like integrating core content or increasing engagement. And when we ask teachers, when we survey teachers about the effect of these projects, we want to see that impact. And we have seen that impact as we've implemented those projects around the country. Now, the last flavor was that ongoing support. So our projects, our PD, they come with a coach, me in some cases, or another member of our team who's really passionate about supporting teachers, about helping them out. We will go the extra mile to make sure that teachers are able to do the kind of teaching that they want to do. So we'll personalize action plans at our PD sessions. We'll provide instructional coaching. We'll also, respond to custom requests. So, for example, I had there's one more slide coming here, a teacher who was doing some games with their class, but they wanted an example game. So I built them an example game that they could play with their students that would be custom to the request that that teacher made. One of my colleagues was working with a teacher who was finding trash and wondered how long that trash would take to decompose. So she made them a graphic that they could use in order to explore their curiosity. I just set up a pen pal relationship between a school in Wisconsin and a school in Michigan. One school wanted a pen pal connection with a Native American Indian school. And so I facilitated that pen pal connection. Schools are interested in a specific real world expert. Well, my colleagues set them up with a school that was interested in water quality with a water quality expert. So whatever those teachers are looking for, whatever they need, we can go that extra mile and help them out. And that's what we love to do. So those three flavors of support, that professional development, those instructional resources, and that ongoing support, those three things are better together. When we think about really being supportive of teachers, we want to make sure that they have all three of those things. That's how we really provide support to those heroes who are in our classrooms. So when we work with the school, we provide all three of those options. We set up a customized, specific plan. If you're interested in filling out that that needs analysis, at the bottom of your HyperDoc, there is a link to fill that out. We'd love to just take a look at how we might be able to work with you, again, to offer that really supportive approach to your teachers. There's a link at the bottom of the screen if you'd like to explore that in more detail, blueappleteacher.org/learning-loss-recovery-plan. Of course, there is funding available for this kind of thing. The ESSER funding, the title funding is available for Flex PD, for Blue Apple projects, and for VAI field trips. And that brings us to our final poll of the day. Which of those supports would you find particularly helpful?
Hey, Ben, you'll have to launch this one again.
I think that maybe Heather behind the scenes has launched this poll. I see a poll launched. So if you could check whichever ones you feel would be helpful: professional development, instructional resources, or that ongoing coaching support. And again, you can select more than one. Where would you like to see your teachers supported? We'll leave that open maybe for 5 more seconds, Heather, so that people can get their last picks in. 3, 2, 1. And Heather, if you can share those results, thank you so much. So you can see lots of people selecting each of those: professional development, instructional resources, and ongoing support. And again, in our experience, we've found that those are definitely better together. So we have come to the end of our time together. We hope that you were able to find some outstanding ideas from your colleagues or from the material that we shared. Again, that HyperDoc is a really valuable resource. And we also want to give you a chance to earn a free lunch and learn. This is where we buy lunch for your staff. We also provide just a little learning session, nothing too heavy, either in the food or the learning session, just a chance to get 2 of everybody's favorite things, free learning and free food alongside of it. So there's a link in the chat box. If you go to that link, then you can register to win your staff free stuff, free learning and free food. I hope that you're able to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yes, and it just needs your first name, last name, and email or phone number. So real quick, love to get you on the list.
Super simple. Everything we want to do, we want to make it as simple and straightforward and efficient as possible. And with that, I'm going to hand things back over to Dawn to bring this to a close.
Thanks, Ben. So as you're filling out that form, just wanted to share with you our Better Together discount. So if you book any of our PD Blue Apple projects by January 31st, you will get 20% off. So all those pieces that Ben had talked to you about as well. And it really starts with that free needs analysis. So even if you decide not to use us for professional development, you have this tool, this comprehensive report to use to plan your school year and the resources you need for your teachers. So please check that out. That is in the handy HyperDoc there. You can see the link. And again, that link was in the chat box. And just want to thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, spending this time and having some incredible discussions. And thank you for everything you do every day for your students, for your staff, and for your community. I'm just going to leave you with one quote from our friend Ted here, and hopefully thinking about your students, your classrooms, and it's all about helping your students be the best versions of themselves. So thank you so much again, and hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Bye, everyone.